Good morning to the Honorable Ministers of the Council, members of the media, radio listeners via St. Martin Gov Radio 107.9 FM and other radio stations, and online viewers. I'm Rolika Roach, and welcome to the live Council of Ministers press briefing for today, Wednesday, August 22nd, 2018. At this time, I invite the Minister of Public Housing, Spatial Planning, Environment, and Infrastructure, the Honorable Miklos Hiterson, to address you. Minister Hiterson.
Thank you, Ms. Roach. Good morning, Deputy Prime Minister, fellow ministers, press and audience members viewing and listening. Today's press briefing, August 22nd, 2018, goes as follows. This week, a World Bank team is visiting St. Martin to finalize their assessments for the Emergency Debris Management Project. This project of $25 million is in the final stages of preparation. It consists of activities to clear the remaining hurricane debris on our island and to remove shipwrecks in the Simpson Bay Lagoon. Moreover, the project seeks to close down the Irma dump and manage the landfill more effectively in the shortest possible term, specifically focusing on improved management of the construction and demolition waste. In order to make this project a success, the government of St. Martin asked the public to pay close attention to the separation of debris prior to delivering it to the landfill or the Irma dump. One of the top priorities in the emergency debris management project will be the suppression of the ongoing fires on the landfill. As part of the World Bank mission, a team of fire expression experts is on the island right now, and they are working with the Interim Recovery Committee, the Ministry of ROMI, the Ministry of VSA, and the Fire Department to design an action plan to solve this issue that has been on the political agenda ever since this country came into existence. Everyone wants these fires to be eliminated as soon as possible. Over the past months, this government has been working intensively with the World Bank and also the government of the Netherlands to prepare the first fully financed project that will address the long-burning fires inside the dump. To the people of St. Martin, I would like to be very frank and clear, however. Everyone needs to be fully aware that this operation requires thorough planning and preparation. The suppression of the fires inside the dump is a dangerous operation, and we need to be able to address potential risks before starting this project. A sustainable solution for this very complex issue cannot be presented to us in too short a time frame. I therefore ask you to bear with us while a dedicated team of professionals is preparing to eradicate these fires once and for all. Moving on. The Road Paving Patching Maintenance Program 2018 is scheduled to kick off next week due to a minor delay. A number of roads in the different districts will be repaired, either by patching or repaving. The Department of Public Works has put together an extensive list, and works which are expected to continue for the remainder of the year will first focus on the main roads and then move over to the secondary roads. The ministry will strive to have as little interruption to the traffic flow as possible. However, I do ask the community to bear with any minor inconveniences that may be caused. Moving on, a new tender, which is the security services at the landfill and the Vrummy Yard 2018, will soon be published by the ministry in the media within the coming days. Tender documents can be obtained at the Department of Infrastructure Management and will be available digitally as of tomorrow, Thursday, August 23rd. An information meeting will be held at the office of the Department of Infrastructure Management on August 30th at 10 a.m. I invite all interested parties to come and be part of this meeting. The deadline for submitted bids is September 13th at 10 a.m. Furthermore, information about the tender procedure, and the project can be obtained at the Department of Infrastructure Management. Later on today, VROMI will be hosting a National Spatial Data Infrastructure, or NSDI, consultation seminar, where we will be reviewing the proposed NSDI approach for St. Martin. The NSDI is a critical vehicle for facilitating seamless data development, information sharing, and collaborative decision-making across multiple sectors of the economy. The system is already being used by several agencies on the island, and this session seeks to bring those stakeholders closer together to introduce them to the proposed approach and allowing them to give feedback and recommendations. The opportunity will also be used to share some very relevant documents with those stakeholders that are being prepared on a global level with the UN Economic and Social Council Committee of Experts on the Global Geospatial Information Management. I look forward to reporting on the success of this meeting in a future press briefing. And finally, I would like to once again take the opportunity, as I have done in the previous press briefings, to remind the general public to make a conscious and consistent effort to properly dispose of their household garbage and goods in an effort to keep our community clean. The ministry is making a concentrated effort to keep the garbage haulers accountable to the terms of their contracts. However, we have also taken note of several instances where garbage is being dumped not in designated bins but alongside the roadsides, in ditches and other undesirable places. These actions are counterproductive and only create unsightly, unhygienic mess. Please stop this. I cannot say it more clearly and plainly than that. We live on a beautiful paradise. Let us all do our part to keep it so. This concludes my press briefing for today. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Heatherson, for your opening remarks. At this time, I invite the Minister of Public Health, Social Development, and Labor, the Honorable Emma Lee, to address you. Minister Lee.
Good morning, colleagues, fellow ministers, members of the media, and those listening by television, radio, or internet. Actually, first off, I'd like to dovetail into the comments that the Minister of VROMI made. We have a very good working relationship between the Ministry of VSA and the Ministry of VROMI. And as he has the consultants in, EENG and World Bank for the solid waste management project, there's a number of opportunities for us to dovetail into the work that's being done there. For one, the removal project in terms of the cleanup campaign on the island, part of that also means that we would remove mosquito breeding sites and sites that would breed vectors. And we've managed to integrate our Cash for Work program into that program. So meaning that some of the material is distributed in areas where heavy equipment can't access. So it means that we are going to need people to go into certain areas and physically remove the debris and bring it into an area where it can be loaded into a vehicle. So our plan is to use people that are looking for work, that are unemployed. They would be paid a stipend, and this is funded through the World Bank. So this is a good collaboration between the Ministry of VSA and the Ministry of VROMI. The other thing is, in the preparations for the management of the dump, experts are coming in with equipment that can measure air quality. So as part of their tender process, in terms of making sure that the workers who are working at the dump understand what environment they're working in, there's also an opportunity for the Ministry of Health to dovetail into that and measure the air quality or the emissions that are coming from the dump. So while we have a pretty good idea, from academic research in terms of what you can expect is in the air, I mean, I don't think anybody has any doubts that the smoke that's constantly emitted from the dump has a negative health impact. But we finally have an opportunity to actually quantify it, to really understand exactly what's in there and what the risks for the community are. And perhaps from there we can also better, the best measure is, of course, to eliminate the fires at the dump, but also what we can do from a public safety perspective. So lots of good opportunities for collaboration between the Ministry of VSA and VROMI. So the other topic I'd like to touch on briefly is we concluded last week a 3-day health disaster conference. In attendance, we had representatives from the Netherlands, Curaçao, Aruba, Bonaire, Saba, and Statia. And we had all types of entities there. Government, of course, the different departments of public health. Healthcare providers, such as the various hospitals, locally, of course, the White and Yellow Cross and pharmacies and even family doctors. And, of course, the social insurance companies as well. The idea is this is a continuation on the cooperation agreement that we laid in place between the Kingdom partners, so we cooperate on healthcare. And one of the outcomes from the meeting that was held in June of 2018, so just recently, between the various ministers, was that there would be a disaster committee, and that St. Martin would chair that committee, and the idea is to discuss areas of cooperation for crisis and disaster, how we can support each other. And while it's clear there's obviously goodwill, and there's general agreements in place to support each other in times of crisis and disaster, many of the details remain to be formalized, right? And when you look at what happened after Irma, very often it was in the details that we found problems. I'll give you just one example. After Irma, there was a high-speed military vessel from the United States that came to deliver water for the country. And in speaking with the commander at the time, he indicated that he had diesel on the vessel. In other words, it was a diesel-propelled, fueled motor. And they said they would be happy to reserve whatever they needed to get back home, but whatever they had in excess, they were happy to leave on the island to help support the island. But this is a marine-grade diesel. And when I called around and said, okay, we have somebody who's willing to give diesel to the island, and who can pick it up and where can we use it, it turned into a whole line of questions about what was the grade of diesel, and is the fuel the right fuel to be used on the island. And in the end, ultimately, because of another storm or high waves, I can't remember, the vessel had to clear out and took the fuel with them. So by simply not being able to identify what was the specifications of the fuel that we would be able to use on island, we missed an opportunity for support. And those kinds of stories repeat over and over. So the idea of getting clarity in terms of the details is a critical part of our disaster preparedness program, and that was very much the focus of our conference last week. The goodwill is there, but we need to make sure that the protocols are in place. So we're talking about protocols for evacuation. So in other words, critical patients and dialysis patients, how do we refer them abroad? How do we transport them? Who handles the expenses, etc.? Protocols for non-critical or self-evacuated and mental health patients. So in other words, there are people on the island who feel like their health may not be in the best of condition, but they don't qualify for a critical evacuation, but they decide that on their own they want to leave. So how do we ensure continuity of care for those patients? Mass casualty plan. If, God forbid, there are a lot of casualties, how do we handle that? Agreements, for example, between the hospitals, the labs, and pharmacies in terms of cooperation, specific protocols. How do we ensure that our pharmacies are resilient? Having a constant supply of medications after a disaster is an important part of our disaster preparedness. So what can we do to support the pharmacies, right? How prepared are they, and how do we communicate after the storm? Coordination of medical supplies. One of the things that we found afterwards is, of course, there's lots of people who are willing to donate medical supplies, but without communications between St. Martin and the various donors, the donors tended to send whatever they thought we might need, or perhaps whatever they had in surplus, but what they're sending might not have matched what the actual needs of the community were. So I think having lists ready in advance that we can already send out to partners and say, look, chances are after a storm, if nothing changes, here's the type of additional supplies that we would need. Also plans for medical staff, first responders. How do we coordinate relief? We saw it after Irma that many of the ambulance staff under the Ministry of VSA, they were working 24/7. They were working around the clock, and they were simply exhausted. So how do we ensure that we can get relief for them to come in on a timely basis? And that goes for nursing and doctors, etc. How do we make sure that we tap the goodwill that is there? So the agreement was that while disaster preparation, the conference is a critical part, and I think bringing up our disaster preparedness level, the conference is a critical part. But we also have a much longer term focus. In other words, the idea is that as we're looking at all of our healthcare policies, we want to ensure that there's a level of disaster preparedness in everything that we're doing. So in our part of our regular activities, keeping in mind, okay, the question in a disaster, how does that affect the discussion that we're having? And actually, this also dovetails into the idea the ministry is working towards health in terms of all policies. Our Minister of Justice is sitting here, for example. One of the things the ministry would like to take a look at is, mandatory laws regarding seatbelts and helmet use. These are all things, so although it's not directly under the Ministry of VSA, that having the appropriate ministry take appropriate health precautions helps us to maintain a healthier population. And of course, we're working closely with Romy in terms of, as we look at the contracts for how we manage the dump, making sure that there are some health parameters to the terms of reference for how we manage the dump. So, Ministry of VSA, we are moving forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister Lee, for your opening remarks. The Ministers of Finance, Tourism, Economic Affairs, Transport and Telecommunication, and the Minister of Justice are all present. However, will not be making any opening statements, but will be available for any questions the media may have. At this time, I invite the Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Education, Culture, Youth and Sport, the Honorable Wycliffe Smith, to address you. Minister Smith.
Thank you very much, Ms. Roach. Good morning, members of the press, colleague ministers, members of the Department of Communication, people watching and listening to this press briefing. Good morning, St. Martin. I would like to remind the public of the annual Sport and Creative Industries Open House and Awareness Campaign, which will take place on Saturday, the 25th, at the Raul Illich Sports Complex under the name #SportsMatter. On Saturday, it's open to the public. But as of tomorrow, Thursday, and on Friday, some 2,000 students from primary and secondary schools will be bused to the open house so that they too can see and experience the Sports Awareness and Creative Industries campaign. Our students will also be encouraged to participate in at least one sport, as we would encourage adults, and they will also be encouraged to eat healthy and to maintain a healthy lifestyle. On Saturday, the Sport and Creative Industries will be open to the general public starting at 1 p.m. with continuous demonstrations by the vendors present, as well as a number of games that will be exhibited. Now, these exhibition games will include matches between our parliamentarians and our previous as well as our current ministers, and also between local celebrities. And here are a few highlights taking place at the open house on Saturday. At 1 o'clock, it starts at 1, there'll be free aqua aerobics at the poolside. And at the same time, at 1 o'clock, a free dance class will be offered. At 2 o'clock, there's a free Zumba session. At 3 p.m., we hope that the members of Parliament will be out for the soccer shootout. At 4 p.m., there's a free workout session. And at 5 p.m., the ministers of government, that's us here today, we're scheduled for the 100-meter dash. So I wish to thank the Department of Sports and the Department of Culture, as well as the National Sports Institute, the Division of Educational Innovations, the St. Martin Sports Olympic Federation, the National Sports Organizations, and the creative industries for working together to organize this annual Sport and Creative Industries Open House and Awareness Campaign, which will take place on Saturday upcoming at the Raoul Illich Sports Complex in Cahill from 1 to 6 p.m. Hope to see you there. Now, for 5 consecutive years since 2012, all of our 6th grade students have sat a general school leaving examination. It's called the Foundation-Based Education Exit Examination. In short, FBE Exit Exam. This year, a total of 509 6th graders sat the FBE Exit Exam. They were required, as has been the case in previous years, to demonstrate their level of understanding and proficiency in 4 subjects: English, Dutch, mathematics, and general knowledge. Now, for the past years, the Ministry of Education, Culture, Youth, and Sports has recognized those students who obtained the highest scores on the FBE Exit Exam. And this year, the ministry will be doing the same. So, next week, Tuesday, August 28th, a number of students will be recognized for their academic achievements. Normally, the ministry selects the 5 top students who have scored the highest in the 4 subjects combined. However, on Tuesday, we will be awarding 7 students with the highest overall scores. Why 7? Because this year we had a tie in which 3 students scored the same top scores. Besides giving awards based on the highest overall scores, the ministry also recognizes the top students in each subject area. In other words, the students who scored exceptionally well in the subjects math, English, Dutch, and general knowledge will also be honored. The ceremony will take place, as I said, next Tuesday afternoon, August 28th, here at the Government Administration Building. I know that the situation at the PSVE school has very much the attention of the media. But I can also assure you, it also has the attention of the Ministry of Education, Culture, Youth, and Sports. I've had talks with the school board of the Foundation for Academic and Vocational Education, FAVE. I've spoken to the principal, and I've also met with the Windward Islands Teachers Union on this matter. Tomorrow, God willing, I will go to the school to listen to the PSVE teachers and staff to hear their grievances and their concerns. Having been a teacher myself, I have great confidence in the teachers, whom I'm sure, just like me, have the education and the well-being of the students at heart. We must realize, though, that wherever people work together, wherever people live together and even play together, there will be misunderstandings and disagreements. And as human beings, we will not always see eye to eye with each other. But there's always a common goal. And in this case, at the PSVE, it is the 300 students who need us. It's the 300 students who need the teachers and the staff. It's the 300 students who need the management and the board and the ministry for us all to work together so that together we deliver solid, quality education so that they, the students, can be educated and well prepared to be the future of St. Martin. So I'm going to listen to the teachers with an open mind and try to mediate to resolve the conflict in the best interest of the students. This week, I was invited to the Central Committee of Parliament to present the nominations for the Monument Council. We presented 7 prospective members, namely Patrice Gums as chairman, Alfonso Bladen, Marla Shimon, Alexis Velasquez, Natasha Richardson, Donovan Smith, and Nzinga Lake. And now it's up to the Parliament to call a public meeting to approve these names so that the Monument Council can begin its work on advising the Minister and the Parliament on matters related to monument care on St. Martin. We were also invited to the Central Committee of Parliament to present the new law on study financing. The Ministry of Education, Culture, Youth and Sport has been working on drafting this law for many years. And I want to acknowledge my predecessors and the Department of Education for their tenacity and their perseverance as they prepared draft after draft after draft until we now have a law that reflects the realities of study financing, because the policies that the Division of Study Financing has been working with for the last 20 years have now finally been put in a law. I have to be back in Parliament on Monday coming to answer several questions that they asked, but I truly hope that Parliament will give this law priority and will call a public meeting in the near future to pass the law on study financing. A new decree that the Ministry of Education just completed and submitted to the Council of Ministers is the National Decree on the Funding of Schools. As you know, government subsidizes schools, public as well as private. In other words, the school boards on St. Martin are subsidized by government, but they are also autonomous. So, for example, the school boards have their own hiring policy, and that is the reason that the Minister of Education, Culture, Youth and Sports can make the public aware of the teacher shortage. But, as you know, the minister does not hire teachers. The minister, in his capacity as minister, receives the information about numbers of teachers from schools, and this, of course, has to do with the subsidy that the private schools are granted. But the minister does not have the authority to announce to the public which schools have a shortage and whether they are short of X number of teachers or whether they're short of subject teachers. We have that information and we present it as general information. The information pertaining to each school and information pertaining to teachers, that's the sole authority of and competency of the school boards. The minister does not have the authority to sit on the chair of the school board. A very good example is the conflict between the PSVE teachers and the FAVIS school board. This is strictly a matter between the school board and the teachers. The minister has no legal or authoritative powers as far as this matter is concerned. In other words, the minister cannot send home the school board or the principal. Neither can the minister fire the current teachers and hire new teachers. However, what the minister can do, and is attempting to do in this case, is to mediate. Given his office and the neutrality of the office, that's what he will do, mediate. What you hear in the public is, very often, the government should stop the subsidy. Stopping a school subsidy is a very far-reaching measure that requires in-depth research in the financial, administrative, educational, and legal consequences. A simple matter to give thought to would be, where will those hundreds of students continue their education when a school is forced to close because government stopped financing the school? What happens to the teachers? They have mouths to feed, families to feed, they have mortgages and so on. So government just can't get up and stop the subsidy to a school. To come back to the law or the decree on the funding of schools, The Council of Ministers has approved the draft, approved it yesterday, and will be sending it to the Council of Advice for further review. The law on school funding prescribes that school boards annually get a lump sum and that they are required to spend it according to the criteria that are laid down in the law. At the end of the school year, the school boards then submit a financial report to the ministry outlining how they spent the money. If the money is accounted for, then subsidy is granted for another year. If the monies cannot be accounted for, then the ministry would work with the school boards to resolve the problem. Withholding subsidy would be the very, 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 very last resort. Just to give you an idea of the subsidy that's granted to school boards, here are some figures. There are in total 8 private school boards that are subsidized by government. The lowest amount of subsidy granted to a school board last school year was $1,865,426 guilders and 43 cents. The highest amount of subsidy granted to a school board was $18,311,120 guilders and 56 cents. Now, last school year, 2017-2018, the 8 school boards received a total of $72,114,029 guilders and 4 cents. Now, it's interesting to take this amount, $72,114,029 guilders and 4 cents, and divide it among the total number of students that these school boards provide education for, which is 6,324 students. When we divide the 72 million plus amongst the 6,324 students, we get an amount of 11,403 guilders and 23 cents per student. That's the average amount that government is paying annually for a primary school student or a secondary school student to be educated. That's a lot of money. It's nearly as much as the government pays for study financing for a student to follow tertiary education at USM. Government spends a lot of money on education, and therefore government needs to see the return of its investment in education. But that will be a topic for another time. This is what I'd like to share with you at this time. And if you have any further questions or any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Minister Smith, for your opening remarks. If you've just joined us, you are watching the live Council of Ministers press briefing. We move on to the question and answer session. Andrew Dick of the Daily Herald, you have the floor.
Thank you. Good morning to all the ministers. Can I start off with the Minister of Tourism? Minister Johnson, the website is still down for the country. Is there any update on this?
Andrew, good morning, and good morning to the entire press corps. So glad that you could join us this morning, Andrew. Indeed, the website is being worked on. As you know, there was an outstanding payment. Some of the many inherited things that I received coming into the office, you know of one in particular as well. So those are things that we are working on. Indeed, for the ministry and the tourist office, we'll look at opening the bidding, that it becomes a fair play, and that this ministry continues to deal with the utmost transparency going forward. So you will see a website that will be second to none to promote St. Martin going forward. So thank you indeed for your question.
Thank you, Minister. Lyndon Brown, BCN-TV, you have the floor.
Good morning to the people of St. Martin. You are so wonderful. I want to let the minister know that the people are waiting to get an answer. Okay, to the minister, Minister Giddens. Giddison, sorry. The people are very much concerned about the present hauler at the landfill. Would they remain? You mentioned a couple of months ago that their contracts are pending. The contract will soon be finished. Is it so? It will continue on that basis?
Thank you for the question, Mr. Brown. The contract is up. It will be over in December, the end of the year. So, but right now we are deducting payments from them when they do not perform, when they do not collect garbage, and we have another company coming in to collect that garbage. So we are not paying them, but we are living up to the conditions of the contract.
Thank you, Minister. Stephen Cerulean of PJ82 Radio, you have the floor.
Excellencies, good morning. First of all, I want to recognize my colleague, Ricardo William, who is celebrating his birthday today. Congratulations to you. My question is for the Minister of Education. Minister, during the graduation ceremony of USM on Saturday, you stated, and I quote, "Over the years, USM has been striving for accreditation and advocating for national ordinance on higher education, and that the ministry is a step closer to achieving this," unquote. How close are you to achieving this?
As you know, thank you for that question. There was a time schedule for the law on higher education starting last year, and that the aim was to get it completed and in Parliament by the end of this year, 2018. And so that is still the schedule that we're following.
Thank you, Minister. Andrew Dick.
Yes, Minister De Wever. Because of safety issues, I don't want to mention the specific challenges of the Point Blanche prison security. However, can I ask about the prisoners coming back in November? How prepared are we for their return?
Good afternoon. Thank you very much, Mr. Dick, for your question. Flying ahead of my time there. Good morning. Sorry. We have a preparation plan. The plan for NAMPAC, as you know, the plan of approach, which deals with the short-term, mid-term, and long-term challenges as well as solutions for the prison. And we are busy with that. As far as being prepared, we are prepared. There's work that still needs to get done. That's being done, and we'll be ready by the end of the year when they're scheduled to come back. Thank you.
Lyndon Brown.
Okay, question to Minister Lee. Minister Lee, you mentioned that there will be cash for work, areas that garbage hauler were not able to go. You will be hiring the local people, cash for work. And what's the criteria? Do these youngster person, they will have to get a special license for this? Are companies going to hire people? Because you mentioned that there will be cash for work.
Thanks, Lyndon. Perhaps just to be clear about the question, and they're not going to be giving cash, right? So they will be paid via the company, via checks or bank transfers. Okay, it's just so we're clear. The idea is that they're going to work together. So the Ministry of ROMI is working through companies because they need the support of vehicles. They need to carry the materials to the appropriate dump or sorting facilities, right? So the idea is the Ministry of ROMI is going to be working with various companies. They're going through a bidding process in terms of how they're doing that, of which one of the requirements will be that they, when they need manual labor, that they are using employees, people who are unemployed, and the salaries for those people, the stipend for those, are going to be paid via the fund that's been made available for the cleanup. It is a stipend. It is not, so it's a basic amount of money to make sure that people can survive and make ends meet. And it also will include health insurance. That's one of the components that we found that in our earlier program with the hospitality training program, or now skills training program, is that some of the people were having issues with maintaining their health insurance. So we brought that up with World Bank, that as one of the criterias for the projects, we believe that it's important that people are able to retain their health insurance. I mean, that goes to our other portfolio where we're working towards universal health coverage to ensure that everybody has access to health care. So the idea is that the individuals will work via the companies, and those companies are going to be selected through an open, transparent bidding process through VROMI.
And the same conversation, how
Mr.
long?
Brown, it's one question per round. So we now move on to the final round of questions. Oh, sorry. Andrew Dick of the Daily Herald. You now have the floor.
Yes, Minister Johnson, transportation, as far as the bus association, they sent a request to your office for a meeting. They said they haven't received any answers yet. Is there any plans to meet with the association? And also, what are some of the plans you have for transportation?
Well, thank you, of course, Andrew, for your question once again. And indeed, my schedule is full. As you saw from the first week of taking the oath of office, it has been a packed agenda, meeting with stakeholders, ensuring that the people of St. Martin finally see that the Ministry of TIAT is going to continue to reach out and promote St. Martin, not only internationally or regionally, but more so to beef up the destination in terms of the cleanliness, to make sure there's hospitality components, make sure the airport is ready, make sure the harbor is ready. There's many facets within the Ministry of TIAT that has to be addressed. And one of those, indeed, is the transportation aspect of the ministry. I do intend within short to schedule that meeting. So administratively, as you know, there's been other meetings that even, as you asked, with regarding parliamentary meetings that superseded certain priorities. So indeed, the ministry has a long list of priorities and it will be dealt with accordingly. So going forward, the vision of transportation would be put forward and it would be put forward to the public at large. So thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Stephen Sirleon.
My question is for the Deputy Minister responsible for General Affairs in the absence of the Prime Minister and, of course, the Finance Minister. According to reports, there is a shortage of tires for the various vehicles at the fire department. Creditors will not make tires available until certain bills are paid. Are you aware of this, and what has been done to at least bring the fire department and their vehicle up to date?
Thank you for the question, but honestly speaking, I'm not aware of that problem.
Thank you, Minister. We now move on to the final round of questions. Andrew Dick, as you asked 2 questions in the second round, you will not get your question in the third round. So Lyndon Brown of BCN TV, you have the floor.
Okay, Minister. Question to Minister of Finance. You'll be having a meeting with the Parliament today. Could you tell us, tell the people of St. Martin, what will be the center of the meeting?
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Good morning to my colleagues and all the listeners and those who are watching this press briefing. This afternoon at 3, there is a meeting, a Central Committee meeting in Parliament, indeed, with the Central Bank. And the question this meeting was called for has to do with what was the role of the Central Bank in the aftermath of Irma. What did they contribute to the support of Country St. Martin in the aftermath? The Central Bank will give a presentation to that effect, in which they will explain what they did. Maybe it's a good thing to also mention that the central role of the Central Bank is a supervisory role on the local bank institutions, the financial sector, and also the insurance branch. So I don't know what people would like to perceive out of the meeting, but just to have mentioned that the role is specifically the supervision. I can also inform you that as the Minister of Finance, I've been in contact back and forth with the central bank to look at possibilities to have additional funding to jumpstart our economy. It is a tedious road to travel because any move that you make towards the central bank and towards additional funding, you also have to include the advices of the CFT. But we are on that track, separate from funding through the World Bank. The Ministry of Finance is seeking funding to jumpstart the economy. Thank you for your question, Mr. Brown.
Thank you, Minister Heerlings. Stephen Cerulean, you have the final question.
I was hoping to have been able to get an answer from the Minister of Finance as it pertains to the fire department and creditors. But if I may move over to the Minister of RAMI, Minister Gitterson, the seminar, as has been scheduled for today, from what time and who is invited?
Thank you for the question, Mr. Stephen. The seminar, I believe, starts at 3 o'clock today. It's with GB. It's with Telem. I can get a list of the invitees. I don't want to call anyone who's not really invited, but it's from 3 o'clock today. 2. See? Thanks.
Thank you, Minister Heatherson. Honorable Ministers of the Council, members of the media, radio listeners, and online viewers, this brings us to the end of the live Council of Ministers press briefing for today, Wednesday, August 22nd, 2018. For rebroadcast, tune in every evening at 7 p.m. on St. Martin Cable TV. For video on demand, log on to the official government's website at www.stmartingov.org. On behalf of the Department of Communication, we would like to wish our Honorable Minister Miklos Heatherson and Mr. Ricardo William a happy and blessed birthday. To our viewers, I'm Relika Roach, and do have a pleasant day further.